Hello, friends. Yesterday, I had a very interesting conversation on WhatsApp with one of my clients. He asked me a question that I want to read to you. Dima, hi. I'm tired of arguing with people who actually live here, who keep trying to tell me that permanent residency in Montenegro doesn't give you anything in the future, and that having a temporary residence permit is enough. If you have the chance, I would really appreciate your explanation on this matter. Later, I'll use it to explain things to these kinds of people. Well, the person asked, so I decided to do it. I decided to share what I think about this. Indeed, among so-called gurus who live here, there are various opinions. Often, to be honest, it's not even clear what these opinions are based on. And many really do try to say that the temporary residence permit is enough for us. Why would anyone even need permanent residency at all? I think they're trying to justify their actions this way. Why do we do everything so as not to get permanent residency in the future? Well, for example, we get a job and obtain a temporary residence permit on that basis. You can get permanent residency if you open a company in Montenegro or buy real estate. Other conditions for obtaining permanent residency are somewhat questionable. That is, this is what really works. Open a company, buy real estate, and you can apply for permanent residence. But sometimes people engage in either fake or real employment, and as a result, they can't get permanent residency. So they probably try to justify their actions both to themselves and to those around them. Permanent residency is a very important thing that, in my opinion, every immigrant should strive for. At the very least, everyone who has come to live in Montenegro for good, not just those who are here for a year to get by, live a bit and then go back home. What does it give you? First of all, the most important thing is protection from future changes in the laws regarding foreigners. Permanent residency is granted for life. Oh, right, you do have to renew your card every 5 years. But it's similar to how in Russia you have to renew your passport when you turn 45. That doesn't mean that when you turn 45 you have to reapply for Russian citizenship. No, your citizenship doesn't go anywhere. You're just renewing your passport. It's pretty much the same with renewing permanent residency. The law specifies particular cases in which your residency might not be renewed. In all other cases, they cannot refuse. So, in all other cases, your residency is renewed. For example, if you end up in prison, I'm not sure of the exact wording in the law, but I think if you're sentenced to 6 months, then your permanent residency won't be renewed. In other words, if you haven't done anything wrong, your permanent residency is renewed without any issues. It's granted for life. Accordingly, this is a very important aspect, since throughout Europe there is a gradual tightening of requirements for immigrants. Yes, the logic is as follows. We have allowed immigrants in, we are allowing them in, and we will continue to do so, but gradually we will admit only those who are more and more useful, depending on the country's development. The more developed the country, the higher the criteria. For example, in Montenegro, you can obtain a residence permit by investing just €1. While in Germany you can get a residence permit only if you invest at least €300,000. But that's provided your business plan is also approved by the embassy. So it's not exactly 300,000, but starting from 300,000. In other words, the more, the better. So in short, you can see the difference between Montenegro and the countries of Western Europe. And someday this trend will reach Montenegro as well. When exactly, no one knows. Maybe in 10 years, maybe in 20, but sooner or later it will happen here. As the country develops, the requirements here will also change. That's why permanent residency provides protection against these kinds of negative changes. Of course, you won't be kicked out of the country, but they might say, right now you're paying €35 in taxes. No, 35 is too little. Let's have you pay more. Or they might say, you have a shell company. Well, there are no shell companies anywhere in Europe. Everywhere they are regulated. Let's have them regulated in Montenegro as well. In short, something might change someday. And permanent residency gives you the guarantee that any changes that happen in the future won't affect you anymore. So you should aim to obtain it. Besides that, permanent residency also gives you the right to work. Technically, you can work now with a temporary residence permit too, but it's a bit different and the process is more complicated. And with permanent residence, you find a job and then everything is like for Montenegrins. You just prepare a package of documents, submit it to the tax office that such and such an employee works in this company. It's all very simple. You can change employers without any problems. There's no need to get any additional permits for that anymore. Everything is done very easily. Next, Social Security. With permanent residency, you are entitled to receive various benefits, for example, unemployment benefits and maternity benefits. And most importantly, there's the pension. With permanent residency, you gain the right to receive a pension. By the way, I have a detailed video about pensions on my channel. If anyone is interested in this topic, find it and watch it. So, what else? Permanent residency is also kind of the first step towards obtaining citizenship. Citizenship provides, firstly, even greater protection, and secondly, it gives you the right to travel visa-free to many countries. So that's also a useful thing, and you can't get it without permanent residency. But I think I've explained in enough detail why you need permanent residency. If anyone still has questions about this, you can contact me on WhatsApp. I'll answer all your questions. Thank you all for your attention. Goodbye.